Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, June 30th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had some masterful pitching performances this weekend. We had an Orioles offensive explosion on Friday night, 22 runs scored. We needed that. Latest waiver wire moves, injury updates, and much more. But let's begin with the players of the weekend.
Oh, my goodness. Holy cow. Do you believe it?
All right, Scott, do you believe that Spencer Steer is back?
I don't know. He certainly looked like it the last couple weeks, and especially on Friday, 3 home runs in one game. For the month of June, that brings him to a .315 batting average, 5 home runs, 3 steals, 876 OPS. Obviously, his June numbers were improved greatly by that one game with the 3 home runs. But I really look at the last 2 weeks. We've seen a big spike in Spencer Steer's point production the last 2 weeks. In fact, he is the beginning June 16th, so the last 2 scoring periods in fantasy, he is the number 2 first baseman, and that's not even including Sunday where he had another 2-hit game. So he may have passed Nick Kurtz for that 2-week period to be the number 1 first baseman during that time is Spencer Steer. Obviously, he's still contributing with steals. I've noticed that, even just isolating it to June, his average exit velocity is still only 87 miles per hour. And that's, it's always been bad for him. He's never really stood out for how hard he hits the ball, but it's been worse this year. And I don't know that we're seeing clear improvement there for Spencer Steer, but his pull air rate is by a pretty considerable margin the best of his career. It's a different shade of red on his Baseball Savant page than it normally is. And so that might, in theory, more than make up for that mile per hour of exit velocity lost. And there's a chance he regains it. Certainly the way he's performed the last 2 weeks, it's been trending up a little. I think it's worth, I think it's worth opening your mind to the possibilities of Spencer Steer. And I say that as someone who has been a Spencer Steer detractor each of the last 2 years. I had him as a preseason bust each of the last 2 years. But now, of course, nobody expects much of anything from him. So it's worth looking into again.
And I think it's worth just noting that he dealt with that shoulder injury this spring that had, I think, lingered from last year, had limited him during the spring. I think he was limited to DH duties for the first couple of weeks of the season as well. And it might just be that he's healthy now, and he wasn't early in the season. The quality of contact metrics don't back that hypothesis up. June is actually his lowest expected WOBA of any month so far this season. But, like Scott said, he's hitting the ball to the pull side a little more often. The strikeout rate looks like it's a little bit down. So I'm willing to take into account the possibility that Spencer Steer's starting to find it, especially because it's really the last 2 weeks. It's 7 multi-hit games in his last 11 in this stretch. And over the past 50 plate appearances, his expected WOBA is up to 326, much, much higher than his actual season mark. And 326 is pretty average, but if that's the baseline and you're talking about someone who hits the ball in the air to the pull side a lot, that should be a pretty good hitter. Not a great one, but one in a good park who steals some bases, who should be pretty useful for fantasy.
I do think the shoulder injury in spring is a perfectly reasonable excuse for why Spencer Steer got off to such a bad start. If you look at March and April, he hit 174 with a 519 OPS. In May, he hit 270. All right, OPS climbing a little bit, 726. And then Scott read off the numbers here in June. So he's coming around, obviously helped out by a 3-homer game on Friday. 67% rostered, first base and outfield eligibility. Outfield quietly has actually been a pretty good position this year, but we've lost some big names recently. Corbin Carroll went on the IL last week. Wyatt Langford on the, this weekend as well. So Spencer Steer could fill in the outfield, or if you need a first baseman, whatever it might be. We'll talk more about some Wyatt Langford replacements a little bit later on, but comparing and contrasting outfielders will be a pretty big part of this show because there are lots of interesting names like Cam Smith is popping up, revenge game weekend for him. So we'll talk about more of those names a little bit later on. When I get to my player of the weekend, it is Quinn Priester, who was awesome against the Rockies. 7 shutout innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, had 20 whiffs on 95 pitches, only 4 hard hits in this game. Worth noting, this was the Rockies' first start away from Coors Field, first series away from Coors Field. So typically very good pitcher matchups in those matchups. And Quinn Priester obviously was great here. Both the breaking balls were awesome, slider and curve. And I mean, that has been consistent for him all season. The breaking pitches are great. He's now throwing his sinker a little bit less. He's mixing in those pitches more. And it has led to some great results. If you look, last 10 outings dating back to early May, 7 of those being starts. He had an opener for some of those, but a 2.30 ERA and a 1.01 WHIP since over his last 10 outings, 7 starts. So pretty good numbers here for Quinn Priester, who's at the Marlins this week. A lineup that's performing a little bit better, but I think we still consider that a very good matchup.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Quinn Priester?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The thing I like most about Quinn Priester is that his next start's against the Marlins. I think he's okay. I think he's a pretty talented pitcher, but I don't think he's someone who you are likely to just start in all matchups no matter what moving forward. So the fact that he's got a good matchup in his next one makes me like him a lot for his next matchup. After that, I think you see how that one goes, see how he pitches the next few starts heading into the All-Star break, and I don't think you're going to be dropping Quinn Priester necessarily. So I'm on board with starting him this week for sure.
It's a high floor start, I would say, sort of like Andre Palante. It's similar because they're both high ground ball pitchers. And so they can have stretches where they keep runs off the board like Priester has here recently. His ground ball rate is pushing 60%. I mean, it's really good. Just Andre Palante's exceeds 60%, and he is facing the Pirates this week. And so that's why I had him on my sleeper pitchers list. And I don't think this is like a coming out party for Priester. The 1 hit, 11 strikeouts against the Rockies. Remember, this is the same. Actually,
you
no.
Thinking about Bryce Elder?
That was against the Giants, wasn't it? I don't know why I got it.
No, I think Bryce Elder was against the Rockies, wasn't it?
No, I think Bryce Elder was against the Giants, and I was about to say it was against the Rockies, but then...
Oh, no, it was his next start was against the Rockies.
Yeah.
That's when we started buying in, and then
this is the same Rockies lineup that gave up. How many strikeouts does Strider have? 13 to Strider one day and 15 to Grant Holmes next, and like they're the most strikeout prone team in baseball now. They've surpassed the Angels. And so I think we need to take that aspect of this performance from Priester with a pretty big grain of salt.
Totally agree, but I do like his combination of getting ground balls, obviously, unlocking a few more whiffs here, throwing these breaking pitches a little bit more, and his control has been a lot better. So he has just 2 walks total in his last 4 outings. That is much different than what we saw early on in the season. So Quinn Priester, he's hot right now. He's a good matchup this week and someone you definitely can stream against the Marlins. Chris,
I do have to point out one thing.
What's up?
His start after that is going to be against the Dodgers.
Well, we're not using him there.
And then if he lines up in the first 3 for the Brewers to open the second half, his next start would also be against the Dodgers after that. So that's not great. That doesn't augur well for Quinn Priester as a must-roster pitcher.
I don't think he's must-roster. I think...
But I think he's a viable streamer for this week.
I think he's a streamer.
All right, somebody who might have a little more upside is Kumar Rocker. Chris, your player of the weekend.
You know, pitchers are funny because Kumar Rocker had this like 70-grade slider, and he doesn't have that pitch anymore. He just straight up does not throw. It was never clear if it was a slider or a curveball. It was this like mid-80s killer 2-plane breaking ball that was racking up, I think, 50% whiff rate last season, was dominating in AAA. It's been his best pitch going back to Vanderbilt, and that pitch just does not exist in his arsenal anymore. He has replaced it over the past 4 starts with a hard cutter that he throws about 90 miles an hour, and he's throwing it as his primary pitch. Brand new pitch that he basically didn't throw until his June fourth start, and now he's throwing it like 40% of the time. He's getting whiffs with it. He's throwing it in any count. It's his primary pitch in 0-0 counts. It's his primary pitch in 2-strike counts. And given that Kumar Rocker's fastballs and especially his four-seamer have always been pretty bad, despite some good velocity, I think this change makes sense. The question I have with Kumar Rocker moving forward is, can he do it all? Right? Can he have this cutter? The curveball, the slower curveball has been a pretty good swing and miss pitch, although not in this one necessarily. Can he throw the cutter and then that harder slider off of it, that 85, 86 mile an hour slider, and really bring it all together? If he can, I think there's a lot of upside here. Because that slider has been a really, really good pitch for him. It's just, that's the one thing we haven't seen. He threw it 3 or 4 times in his start over the weekend, which I should mention the numbers. It was 6 strikeouts over 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 1 walk against the Seattle Mariners. I think we're still a long way from considering Kumar Rocker a must roster and certainly not a must start pitcher, but I am trying to add him where I can this weekend solely as an upside play. And he's like 50% rostered, I think, already. Oh, no, lower than that, 27.
Yeah, 27, widely available.
So, yeah, I'm trying to add him not with the expectation that, great, I've got a new pitcher I can slot into my roster because I'm into my lineup, because I don't think Kumar Rocker's at that point yet. It's 3 pretty good starts in a row, but this was his first really good one. But I'm intrigued by what we're seeing. I'm intrigued by the skill set, and I'm always going to be looking when a pitcher with this kind of talent shows flashes.
Mm-hmm. So if we're just pitting these names up against each other, I think Quinn Priester, if you need to start this week, Kumar Rocker, if you're thinking more long-term, that would make more sense, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. But if it came down to picking which one to add, I think I'd rather take the flyer on Rocker and just make do for the 1 week, with Priester obviously having the better matchup.
Mm-hmm. Rocker is projected to face the Padres this week. So, I mean, not a lineup that's been, great by any means over the past month, but a team that doesn't strike out very much. And again, I think we do need to see more before we get Rocker in lineups, but I've been pretty intrigued by this cutter that he's throwing, and so far it's been a really good pitch for him. A 280 ex-WOBA and 36% whiff rate on that cutter. So we'll see if he can continue to throw that and if he can mix in other pitches as well. Before we hit our first break, just a big thanks to those watching us live here on YouTube. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's take a break, and when we return, we'll get into the news. We've got some injury updates. We'll do all of that right after this.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver, touchdown!
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year!
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals!
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's hit the news and notes from the weekend. And Astros GM Dana Brown said Sunday there's a chance that Yordan Alvarez joins the Astros next weekend against the Dodgers, but added it's, quote, not the most likely scenario. I don't know that any other team provides updates that are not really updates quite like the Astros.
I mean, over under on 3.5 fractured ribs for Jeremy Pena after he's missed the last 2 games with after being hit by a pitch, right? Like that's how this has worked, right? Yeah, I have no idea. I'm certainly not going to put Yordan Alvarez in my lineup.
Correct.
If he's back before the All-Star break, I will be thrilled.
Sure.
He did do live BP for the first time, I think on Saturday or Sunday. So that, he was out there swinging a bat with presumably some ferocity. So he does seem to be making progress.
Mm-hmm. Bryce Harper took swings in a live batting practice Saturday as well. Assuming he doesn't experience any setbacks with that right wrist, he could return on Monday, but obviously just pay attention to the news. If he's back, boom, get him back in your lineup. Wyatt Langford was placed in the IL Friday due to a left oblique strain retroactive to June 25th. So he's now dealt with strains to both of his obliques this season, and this one, again, landing him on the IL. So not great. He has been struggling for quite some time. Tyler Glasnow is expected to require at least 2 more rehab appearances before being activated by the Dodgers. And sticking with the Dodgers, because they always have updates on their pitchers, Blake Snell is, quote, probably not close to facing hitters, according to Dave Roberts. So a pretty ominous update on him. And Emmett Sheehan's next start will come at AAA, despite an awesome outing last time. It seems like they're kind of slow playing it here with him.
I will say Justin Wroblewski's looked better. He was really good this weekend as well. So that makes me a little bit concerned about Emmett Sheehan. But if he goes out there and throws 85 pitches in his next start, then I would imagine his next one after that is going to be with the Dodgers. He only got to 75 in his previous one.
Here's the exact quote from Dave Roberts. He'll have another start with OKC, and then at that point in time, there might be some things happening.
Cool.
All right.
Very, very Houston Astros there.
There you go. Jeremy Pena has missed 2 straight after being hit by a pitch on his ribs on Friday, as Chris alluded to. Have you guys seen anything start or sit this week? How do you feel about Pena?
Seems like he's in pain, so I would rather not play him.
Seems like he's in pain, so nah.
I thought you were just going to go with the he's in pain. Yeah, but either way it works. No? All right. Josh Naylor has missed 2 straight with neck stiffness. What about him? Start or sit?
The neck is so close to the shoulder. Is this just the shoulder injury that he dealt with last week?
I think he's dealing with both.
Yeah.
I was watching the D-backs game earlier. They said neck/shoulders.
That's a little concerning, just because even if he does play, is he going to be effective? I think I lean towards sitting him if I can.
Hunter Goodman has missed 4 straight due to left hamstring tightness. Anything on Hunter Goodman?
They seem optimistic he's not going to go on the IL, but they're the Rockies and don't seem to know much of anything. So given how loaded the catcher position is right now, I imagine you can find a fill-in and reassess at the start of next week.
Kerry Carpenter left Sunday Night Baseball with a right hamstring injury. They also said on the broadcast that he dealt with a right hamstring injury last year. I couldn't find it in the Pro Sports Transactions database, but maybe it was like a day-to-day thing that he kind of battled through. But he's looked better lately. I know, earlier on in June, Kerry Carpenter was scuffling mightily. So I don't think that he is a must start by any means this upcoming week. Shane Bieber is expected to progress to live BP this week. He's still building up after Tommy John surgery. He's 55% rostered. Yu Darvish threw 3 simulated innings against single-A hitters on Wednesday. He threw 51 pitches, and his fastball topped out at 94.5 miles per hour. He's 61% rostered. Luis Gil is expected to work up to about 35 pitches in a live session this week. And if all goes well, he could be sent out on a rehab assignment. He's 54% rostered. And Nestor Cortez threw 2 simulated innings on Friday and is expected to begin a rehab assignment at AAA this week. He is 38% rostered. How would you guys rank Bieber, Darvish, Luis Gil, and Nestor Cortez as stash candidates?
You just did.
I think I'd go Gil ahead of Darvish. I might go ahead of Bieber just because Bieber's furthest away of this group. I would think it's still another month.
They've been saying mid to late July, but that seems optimistic.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd rather have somebody good than somebody bad, even if it takes.
I don't think Gil is definitely bad though, and I don't think there's a guarantee any of these guys are good.
Like I don't think. Like I think Shane Bieber is must stash any leagues that offer IL spots. I would not say the same for Gil.
Yeah, I don't think there's a guarantee any of these guys are good. I think there's a decent chance they're all pretty bad. And so if they're all around the same timetable, which I think is a reasonable expectation, then yeah, I go Bieber ahead of him. If Gil is 2 weeks ahead, that might be enough to pitch it his way.
Mm-hmm. Scott, watch
Yes.
how you talk about the AL Rookie of the Year.
Defending
right?
AL Rookie of the Year.
Come on.
Okay,
come on.
he had like a 6 ERA from June 15th on or something like that.
All right. But the overall numbers, what do we wind up with? Like a 3.5 ERA? That counts for something, I think.
Listen, you guys are entitled to your own opinions. My opinion. You don't think you're entitled to your own opinion? I think you are.
Wow.
All right, let's move on.
I don't think Luis Gil's very good. So
That's fair.
I would rather not have him approach my fantasy teams.
Jordan
Unless he's free and there's no other choice.
Jordan Westberg aggravated the injury to his left index finger on Friday, and then he missed both Saturday and Sunday. The expectation is that he won't go on the IL, but who knows? Luis Robert was placed in the IL due to a left hamstring strain. Royce Lewis could return from his rehab assignment as early as Tuesday. He's 64% rostered, but he has hit just 202 in 30 games this season. So I don't really have much interest in Royce Lewis. Do you guys disagree?
He has shown so much upside in the past that I'm not going to say I have little. Like, I very much want to give him a chance. And if all it costs me is, $2 a fab or a waiver wire claim, then I'm absolutely going to stash him because, I don't know, I'm looking at one of my teams right now. I need a third baseman. My best, I'll probably slide Cam Smith in at third base. But if not him, I'd have to go add someone, and the best options are not very good. So, like,
third base is a position
Royce
where
Lewis
some
or
people
Christopher Morel, I will give Royce Lewis a try.
Well,
Royce
yeah.
Lewis or Casey Schmidt, I'll give Royce Lewis a try. I think Casey Schmidt's somewhat interesting, but like the upside for him or Ernie Clement or Christian Koss is nothing.
I don't think you have to go that far down before I'm interested in Royce Lewis.
Yeah, I'm just looking at what's available in my league. Those are my actual options. So, yeah, Royce Lewis.
Zach Eflin was removed from Saturday's start with a lower back strain and is trending towards an IL stint. He's been bad lately too. So in leagues with no IL spots, you can go ahead and drop Zach Eflin if you didn't already. Griffin Canning was officially diagnosed with a ruptured Achilles, which means he'll miss the rest of this season and perhaps all of next season as well. It's such a tough injury to come back from. So rough go there for Griffin Canning. The Rangers offered JD Martinez a non-guaranteed contract on Friday. He's now 37 years old and struggled last season. So don't think we have much interest. The Reds released Jeimer Candelario on Sunday. He was awful earlier this year. I had to imagine some team will take a flyer on him. Probably won't matter, but we'll see. And Chase Burns, this isn't a news item, but I just wanted to ask if you saw any big bids on Chase Burns. He became available in most NFBC leagues. I saw in my TGFBI league, he went for $252. And in our NFBC Online Championship, he went for $189. That is a 12-team roto. The other was 15 teams. So around like 20 to 25% is what I saw for Chase Burns.
Yep, 237 in my league. So, yeah, that's about right. Interesting Kumar Rocker was dropped for him. I'd rather have Burns, obviously, but gotta put in a bid for Kumar Rocker now just to make sure I get a chance next week so I don't forget.
Interesting timing on that one. And speaking of Chase Burns, Monday we get Chase Burns against Kara Crochet. So that should be quite the battle there in Fenway too. So, hostile environment for Chase Burns. We'll see how he handles it. Mentioned at the top, we had some truly masterful pitching outings this weekend and 3 that stood out above the rest, along with Quinn Priester, of course. Sonny Gray, one of the best starts of his career on Friday at the Guardians, a 1-hit shutout, 0 walks, 11 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 89 pitches. A Maddox, 89 pitches is insane.
Especially with 11 strikeouts.
Look, I don't want to diminish what Sonny Gray did here. He's obviously been better lately. But, man, the Guardians lineup is just so bad right now. Spencer Schwellenbach up against the Phillies, 7 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts for him, 19 whiffs on 90 pitches in that one. And he has gone 7+ in 4 straight. He also has 4 double-digit strikeout starts this season, so he's been pretty awesome. And Tarek Skubal, he was just filthy on Sunday Night Baseball against the Twins. 7 shutout. He tied a season high with 13 strikeouts, 22 whiffs on 93 pitches. He's the best pitcher in baseball. You didn't need me to tell you that, but he proved it once again. Anything that stood out to you guys on Skubal, Schwellenbach, and Sonny Gray, just 3 awesome outings.
So Sonny Gray now has, and I just counted them up. I'll count them again because I forgot the number. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 starts this year. With 0 earned runs in 6+ innings. 6 with 0 in 6+. and 3 of those have double-digit strikeouts. So I know there have been some ugly starts. There was one 2 turns ago, 6 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. But you can't sit him. You can't play the game with Sonny Gray because, and this is kind of the story of his whole career. As soon as you think you have him figured out, he's going to change everything on you, and usually in a good way.
Schwellenbach too, just wanted to point out he had a little bit of a rough stretch. I think it was, maybe late April, early May, where, we're thinking, all right, I don't know, is he really breaking out? Is it going to happen? Last 10 starts since that point, it's a 2.60 ERA, 0.88 whip, over a strikeout per inning, 13% swinging strike rate. So Schwellenbach has been awesome. Good for him. We had an offensive breakout by the Orioles on Friday. They had 22 runs on 21 hits, including 4 home runs in that game. I believe 2 off of Jose Caballero. Poor guy. I mean, just crushing his ERA there. But I also didn't realize, Chris, you pointed this out to me, they were down 6-0 in the second inning, and then they go on to win 22-8, which is just bananas stuff there. But Gunnar Henderson, 4 for 6 with his 9th home run in that one. He's actually hitting better in June, 322 batting average, 857 OPS. We just need more home runs. It's only 2 home runs for the whole month. So it's, I don't know, it's just kind of been I know he dealt with the injury early on.
Yeah, it's been disappointing.
A weird season for Gunnar Henderson.
I think he'll be great moving forward. I also think if you need a catcher, Gary Sanchez, I'm surprised, but
yeah,
that certainly felt like a bad signing at the time. $8 million for a backup catcher when you've got Adley Rutschman. Didn't seem like a need, but Rutschman's going to be out a decent amount of time, and Gary Sanchez has looked great since coming back from his own injury. So
I'm
adding him in a couple leagues.
They're hopeful Rutschman will be back for the start of the second half.
He did express some
he said he wasn't sure,
about that.
but he said it was feeling better. But
that's still 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean short term, sure. Catchers, I'd rather take Agustin Ramirez over Gary.
Well, yeah, he's 77% rostered.
Yeah, this is 2 catcher league stuff with Gary Sanchez, for sure. Colton Cowser, big game, 3 for 4 with 3 runs and 3 doubles and 4 runs scored. Since returning in June, Cowser's hitting 257, 5 homers, 13 RBI, 862 OPS, 63% rostered. Who do you guys like more moving forward, Colton Cowser or Spencer Steer?
I would go Cowser.
Well, my knee-jerk reaction was to say Steer, but you answered so emphatically that now I'm second-guessing myself. I'm going to say Steer for the speed element.
Yeah, I think I would lean Steer as well, but it's pretty close. Cowser's been hitting well. And Kobe Mayo is on the board, 2 for 6 with his first career home run, which came off of Jose Caballero, but we'll take it anyway that we can get it there for Kobe Mayo.
Still counts in your scorecard.
Kind of playing every other day right now. I never know what the Orioles are doing. Kobe Mayo is not a player to add, but it's just a name to watch to see, maybe this starts to get him going a little bit. We know that there's big power potential, but just not playing enough, which, has been the story of Kobe Mayo's career thus far. Let's get into some other waiver wire hitters from the weekend. And here we are. Wyatt Langford replacements, Corbin Carroll replacements. If you just need an outfielder, there are lots of interesting names right now. Cam Smith, revenge games against the Cubs. He homered on both Friday and Saturday night. And overall, he's got the OPS up to 777. We know he's been hot in the month of June. He's up to 77% rostered. That is Cam Smith. Joe Adell continues to rake 2 for 5 with a home run on Friday. Another multi-hit game on Saturday. Josh Lowe picking things up last 5 games. He's got 10 hits, a home run, and a steal. We spoke about Spencer Steer. Kyle Stowers coming alive once again. 2 more home runs this weekend. He's got 3 homers in his past 6. Cedar Rafaela quietly just doing his thing in June, hitting 281, 6 homers, 4 steals, and 858 OPS. And so, all right, there's a lot of names here. I'm also going to throw Jerks and Profar in here. I'm going to throw Colton Cowser in this mix. So there's 8 names total. I have them on the rundown. If you want to follow along, this will help you guys. But Cam Smith, Joe Adell, Josh Lowe, Spencer Steer, Kyle Stowers, Rafaela, Jerks and Profar, Cowser. 8 names. Who are your top 3 from that group?
Okay, I think it's Profar, Cam Smith. I think it's very close after that. I know you didn't mention Austin Hayes, but he's in that group. He's only like 47% rostered, and he's back from his injury. So I think Hayes, Adele, Lowe, Steers, Cowser are all very similar, but the top two clearly for me is Profar and Cam Smith. Cam Smith, ex-WOBA has been increasing every month of the season. It's up to 385 in June. That's a really good mark. Yes, it has come with a lower launch angle, but he's starting to barrel the ball a little bit more. He's hitting the ball really hard. The plate discipline has gotten better every month. I think Cam Smith might be in line for a really big second half. So I would prioritize Profar, but Cam Smith is second for me. And then I think everyone else is a lot closer.
The thing about this group is I don't think I dislike any of them.
Oh, no, I agree.
They all
it's a great group, yeah.
should probably be rostered more than they are. I will point out that for week 15, there are 3 of these in my sleeper hitters, and those 3 in order are Joe Adele, Cam Smith. Is it just 2? I think Kyle Stowers was a near miss. Kyle Stowers sat against a lefty on Sunday, but the Marlins don't have any lefties scheduled for next week, so he would be a fine play, Kyle Stowers. But if you're asking me my favorite 3 rest of season, yeah, I want to give Profar a look pretty much anywhere he's available. Part of that is because he is best suited for points leagues, which tend to be shallower. Mm-hmm. And so, 5 outfielder league, obviously I'm picking up Profar. But also the shallower points leagues, I'm picking up Profar too. And so I think that gives him the top spot. Second and third, I'm inclined to go Austin Hayes and then Josh Lowe. I think, though Lowe has the issue of sitting against lefties oftentimes too. He sat against 3 of the last 4 the Rays have faced. But in theory, there's a lot to like there with Lowe. I don't disagree with Chris's broader take on Cam Smith that it could be happening. Like he started to turn things around a month and a half into his rookie season, and it was kind of a hollow batting average at first, but then we saw the 2 home runs over the weekend. So, top prospect, great minor league numbers. There's a lot of upside there. He's underperforming his expected stats. There's a lot of upside there, clearly. But I do think there's a lot of upside for those other 3 I mentioned as well. More on the Profar thing, who Chris and I both chose as our favorite, but there are a couple developments for him over the weekend. One is, first of all, I should point out he's coming back Wednesday. Wednesday's the day.
Assuming Tuesday's game doesn't get rained out.
Yeah. One is that Brian Snitker initially was saying he wanted to slot him second behind Ronald Acuna. He kind of changed his tune on Sunday, said the middle of the order somewhere. I think that's because he's come to like Matt Olson in the number 2 spot and doesn't want to interfere with that. So that, we'd rather Profar hit second. Middle of the order still isn't bad. The other thing I want to point out, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, because there will be people who hear this and think Scott White is saying Jurickson Profar is going to be bad. I'm not saying that. I am totally open to all possibilities for Jurickson Profar. I want to pick him up and see how it goes. But just to give the complete picture, even though his production has been good on his AAA rehab assignment, his average exit velocity only 87.2 miles per hour and his max only 104.7. That is much closer to pre-2024 Profar than 2024 Profar. Small sample, obviously, maybe means nothing, but got to give the complete picture. Exit velocity is not looking that good at AAA.
But I guess to kind of play the other side again, the numbers that he's putting up in AAA, it's 366 with 3 home runs and an 1101 OPS in 11 games. So it's been good. But you might say that maybe Profar is, lacking a little juice right now.
Maybe.
All right.
Who knows?
We have a second baseman that's heating up. It's Otto Lopez, who homered twice this weekend. He also swiped the bag on Sunday. Last 22 games, he's hitting .322 with 4 homers, 17 runs, 20 RBI, 3 steals, and OPS near 900. He's been really, really good. He's 30% rostered, actually has second base and shortstop eligibility on CBS. And, second base has kind of been, lacking at the top end of the, like there's some okay players in the middle, but I don't know. I think overall, I don't think it's been a great position. How interested are you guys in Otto Lopez?
I think he's a perfectly fine middle infielder. I don't think he's much more than that, but shouldn't hurt you in batting average. 260 is right around what I'd expect. And he's probably pretty close to a 2020 pace because I think he missed a little bit of time. And so, he had what? He had like 18 or 15 homers last year or something like that. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think it was reverse. I think he had 6 or 7 homers, but close to 20. 6
homers, 20 steals last year in fourth. But his underlying quality of contact was better than his actual production. So, I think like 15-20 with a 260 batting average. How useful is that? It's a fringe starter in a 12-team roto league. It's a must-start middle infielder in a 15-team league, and it's probably not that useful in points. But he's hot, so sure.
I put in a move in a roto league, drop Jake Cronenworth, pick up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Otto Lopez. I don't know if we'll go through. Somebody might outbid me for Lopez, but I prefer him to Cronenworth at this point.
I think if I had Ozzy Albies, I wouldn't drop him for Otto Lopez.
Yeah, I think I'd start Otto, yeah.
I think I would maybe pick Otto Lopez up and just start him over Ozzy Albies.
Try to light a fire under Ozzy Albies. You got to bench him until it shows more.
Are you looking at Marlins matchups this week? Is that what you were peeking at?
I was looking at Braves matchups, which are good. They're not top 5 good, but
the Marlins have good matchups, right?
Marlins are pretty good too. Mostly just
any lefties
most notable
for Ozzy?
thing is that there are 0 lefties for the Marlins. There are 3 for Ozzy and the Braves.
Although I would imagine he's been bad against everyone.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I'm not sure if you have this in your notes. While we're on the subject of underachieving Braves hitters, it looks like you do not. Michael Harris sat out both Saturday and Sunday against lefties. So,
wow,
he is
not great.
I think I don't think that's going to be a permanent arrangement, but right now they're pulling back on him a little because he's been so bad.
I think he has 3 more walks this season than I do.
Jeez.
3 walks all season?
No, he has 10. I'm overstating it, but only a little bit.
But maybe you have like 7 walks in softball, Chris, and then he only has 3 more walks.
Yeah, we have the same number of walks in a major league game in the month of June.
It's a 3% walk rate. That's
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Which is interesting that they would even bench him against lefties because he's such a good defender. You would think, all right, they'll just throw him out there and whatever.
Well,
we'll take a 0 offensively if that's great.
You got to get Eli White's bat in the lineup.
Yeah, anytime you can. Couple deep league names here. Nolan Gorman looks like he might be coming alive a little bit. 1 for 3 with a sock and a shoe on Sunday. Last 7 games, he's hitting .296 with 3 homers and 1 steal. Playing more with Ivan Herrera on the IL. Jacob Young, deep league name if you need speed. Last 7 games, hitting .320 with 4 steals. He had 33 steals last season. And Jake McCarthy, 1 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Friday. He's getting playing time because Corbin Carroll's hurt. He has a hit in 4 straight. He had, I think, 25 steals last season as well. So any of these deep league names stand out to you guys? Nolan Gorman, Jacob Young, and Jake McCarthy.
Jacob Young and Jake McCarthy stand out if you need stolen bases, and that's it. And Nolan Gorman is currently hot. Mm-hmm. I don't expect that to continue in the long run, but he's currently hot. He's got a lot of power, and is it 5 or 6 home runs in the month of June for Nolan Gorman?
6 of his 7 home runs this season have come in June.
And the underlying numbers are improved over his last 100 plate appearances. Is 364 xWOBA. So I'm totally fine riding the hot hand with Nolan Gorman.
Again, only in deeper leagues, but we know he's someone that could get hot and obviously provide a lot of power. Let's take our final break. When we return, we'll get into waiver wire pitchers from the weekend. We had someone take a no-hitter into the 9th inning. We'll talk about that right after this. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Taking a look at waiver wire pitchers from the weekend. We already spoke about Quinn Priester, but also Lucas Giolito has been pitching better of late. 7 innings, 1 unearned run with 5 strikeouts, and he has 4 quality starts in a row during that span, a .72 ERA and a .92 WHIP. Chad Patrick, a nice outing against the Rockies, 5 shutout with 8 strikeouts. He had 15 whiffs on 99 pitches, but as we highlighted, everyone strikes out the Rockies, or almost everyone. And Nick Martinez took a no-hitter into the 9th inning against the Padres. Ooh, I just realized a revenge game for Nick Martinez. How about that? 8+, 1 hit, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, had 14 whiffs on 112 pitches. Did change up the pitch mix a little bit here. It was his first start since June 19th when he allowed 7 earned runs. So a nice bounce back here. But who stands out most? What do you guys think? Quinn Priester, Giolito, Chad Patrick, and Nick Martinez.
I kind of like Chad Patrick. And before I was more dismissive of him when his ERA was low, because it's like, I don't see anything he's doing all that well that he's going to be able to sustain this. As the ERA has risen, though, so has the swinging strike rate in a pretty significant way. So the swinging strike rate for the season is only 10.3%, or at least coming into Sunday it was. But in his last 8 starts, it's 13.4%, which is pretty darn good. He's rostered in 2/3 of CBS Sports leagues now, Chad Patrick, because he's just coming off a 2-start week against the Pirates and Rockies. But his next start is against the Marlins. And I think, I still had him. I have him in the sleeper pitchers for this upcoming week. I think he's worth picking up for that outing if you need a 1-start streamer.
All right.
I think these guys are all pretty jaggy. Like 3.80 to 4-ish ERAs is what I expect from all of them. But at Washington for Lucas Giolito this week, at Miami this week for Chad Patrick, and even at Boston's not terrible for Nick Martinez. So I think they're all fine.
Yeah, this was weird because Nick Martinez worked out of the bullpen twice in between starts, and then he throws 116 pitches. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and he was awful in his last start before
the
bullpen.
So
games.
I wish, like I digging into all the usual stuff we dig into, I didn't see anything that noteworthy. He threw 67% of his pitches for strikes. Of course, he was like an elite control guy last year, so we like to see that. But I don't know that that's just going to be the norm for him now because it happened to happen against the Padres here on Friday. And similarly, Lucas Giolito, he has been good with some consistency last 4 starts, especially. Last 4 starts, whip under 1 with nearly a strikeout per inning. But the swinging strike rate's still low. The average exit velocity is still high. It wasn't in this particular start, but overall still high. And I'm pretty skeptical of Lucas Giolito despite his recent success.
I agree with that.
Yeah, even looking at the individual pitch characteristics, there's nothing that stands out very much for Giolito. It's, the changeup is usually his best pitch. He's not getting many whiffs on it. So, look, it's good results. Hope it works out for him, but don't see much that fully backs up what Giolito is doing right now. Going a little bit deeper here, we have Mike Soroka, who has been pitching well. He was at the Angels, 6 innings, 1 run with 5 strikeouts, and 5 starts in June, a 3.49 ERA, .81 whip for Soroka, who faces the Red Sox this week and is a SPARP for those in points leagues. Dean Kramer, strong outing against Tampa Bay, 7 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts. And look, against Tampa Bay, the way that they're hitting right now, that's pretty impressive. Last 6 outings for Kramer, it's a 3.15 ERA, 1.28 whip is high. And we spoke about Kumar Rocker. Rocker's probably the most interesting of this group, but Soroka in a points league?
I think Soroka's interesting. His slurve has been really, really good against righties, and in the month of June, he's been very good against lefties. It's a lot more changeups. He has that new, harder kick change. He's throwing about 20% of the time in the month of June to lefties, and the results have been much better, and that's been the biggest problem for Soroka. So I think he's mostly interesting as a SPARP, but I have at least one roto league where I'm starting him this week against Boston. It's not like they've been a terrifying matchup since they traded Rafael Devers. So I think Soroka is Not significantly less interesting than Giolito, Patrick, and Nick Martinez. I think he's right in that range. Probably has more strikeout upside than any of them.
Who would you rather take a flyer on, Chris? Soroka or Kumar Rocker?
I probably feel more comfortable starting Soroka right now than Rocker. I think Rocker probably has more long-term upside, so it probably just depends on if I need someone this week.
All right, and then some deep league names. Brandon Walter, another strong start against the Cubs. 6 innings, 1 run with 5 strikeouts for him. He has a 3.34 ERA, 104 WHIP. Also has just 2 walks in 5 starts, which seems unsustainable, but it's noteworthy. David Festa bounced back at the Tigers. 5 2/3 shutout with 6 strikeouts. Only reason I bring him up here is because he's at the Marlins this week, so maybe a deep league streamer. And Adrian Hauser has quietly pitched very well for the White Sox. 7 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts against the Giants. He has a 1.90 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. The velocity is up quite a bit this season for Adrian Hauser. He's at the Rockies, which Rockies have hit a little bit better in Coors Field recently. I don't know it's the cakewalk that it was, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but Hauser's pitching well. Anybody stand out here in deep leagues?
The Rockies just look like a normal bad team now, rather than the worst team ever.
Yeah.
They're on pace for like 50 losses now, or 50 wins now, which is really bad, but probably not going to break the White Sox record next season or from last season. So I think, I'm not avoiding them, but I'm probably not starting Adrian Hauser, certainly in a league where there could be some long-term ERA ramifications if I do start him. In a head-to-head points league, whatever. He's a sparp. It's probably fine.
I like Brandon Walter, and I think the Astros do too. The Astros kept him in the rotation instead of Ryan Gusto. They kicked Ryan Gusto to the bullpen. They kept Walter in once they got Lance McCullers back, and so that would suggest that they liked what they saw and want to see more of it. And why wouldn't they? Because Brandon Walters delivered a lot of interesting results here. His control was good at AAA too. He had just 1.3 walks per 9 innings down there. His ground ball rate in the majors over 50%, swinging strike rate 12%, strike rate nearly 70%. That's a lot of top of the ground ball rate and strike rate there near the top of the scale. Swinging strike rate is decent. It's a very solid swinging strike rate. So, different pitch mix from most of his minor league career. And I think he might be a late bloomer here, as we've been saying after Walter's other starts.
I think it's probably going to go really poorly at some point. I just don't think he has the stuff to live in the zone as much as he does. But I agree, the way he's commanding his pitches right now, I think you kind of just roll him out there and live with it. But I do think at some point it's probably going to be a really ugly ERA for Brandon Walter. I just don't trust the stuff. Festa, I'm trying to think if this is an insult or not. He's giving me poor man's Reese Olson vibes, where the changeup and slider are really good and the four-seamer is awful. And he just can't get himself in enough situations where the slider and changeup matter. Because I don't think he can command either pitch to be a primary pitch, and so he has to throw the four-seamer. One thing I have noticed is this season he's throwing his sinker a little bit more, and in this start it might have been up 15% when he usually throws it about 9%. Last year it was 0%. He didn't throw any, so that could be one where it's not a great pitch on its own, but might just be able to mitigate the damage of the other fastball enough to make the changeup and slider play. I'm not totally convinced that David Festa's there yet, but as a streamer against Miami this week, I don't mind it. I think there's some upside there.
All right, I mentioned up at the top that we had some big, actually, no, I don't think I mentioned this, but we did have some big blow-up starts this weekend as well. It was not all good, and Bailey Ober, if I didn't just have a funeral for Zach Gallen last week, I might have had another funeral for Bailey Ober this weekend, because my goodness, at the Tigers, 5 2/3 innings, 11 hits, 7 runs, 4 homers allowed. And over his last 5 starts, 9 ERA, 153 whip, 14 home runs allowed by Bailey Ober, who is still 83% rostered and 50% started, facing Tampa this week. Look, this goes without saying, but still 50% of leagues are starting him. Get Bailey Ober out of your lineup. There's probably an argument to drop him. I don't know if you guys are there yet.
I really considered it.
I feel like we've been saying the same thing after his last several starts. He's messed up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start him. Don't start him again until it looks like he's good again. Can you drop him? Yeah, I mean, in a shallow enough league, you can. But if I did not feel constrained by roster space, it just wasn't that sort of setup, I would just plop him on my bench and hope he turns things around.
I did see a stat earlier that like Chris Paddock was the first Twins pitcher in X amount of years to have 2 starts of 8+ earned runs in the same season. I was like, yeah, give Bailey Ober some time. And amazingly, he hasn't done it yet. But I think it's 3 different starts of at least 7 earned runs now for Bailey Ober. And another one was like 5 or 6. So yeah, it's been a disaster for him. I'm not dropping him, but I was just looking. I have a 12-team league where I would really like to. It's just that like I'm not going to drop Bailey Ober to start stream Andrew Heaney. Like that's not going to be any better for me. You know, like the options just weren't very good.
No.
But if you have like a Jacob Lopez to stream with 2 starts.
Sure. Yeah, I would do that. I would just do that now.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer to drop somebody else, but if that's what it came to, then yeah, I think I'd do that too.
All right, Scott, let's talk about your guy, Jose Soriano, who got bombed on Friday against the Nationals. 4 innings, 8 earned runs in this one. He allowed 11 hard hits, and he was cruising before this. Previous 3 starts were awesome for Soriano, but he's allowed 7+ earned runs 2 different times this season. I think this is just kind of in his range of outcomes because he does give up hard contact. Are you holding on? I don't think we're starting at the Braves this week. What do you think about Soriano?
I think he's better than this. Is he as good as his previous 3 starts? Remember, 2 were double-digit strikeouts. Is he as good as that? Probably not. The velocity was down in this one, and if that continues, it's a problem. Curiously, he threw 67% of his pitches for strikes. Normally, his bad starts are during rougher stretches of the season. Soriano was struggling with control. That didn't seem to be an issue in this one. He was also mixing in that slider, that new pitch that seemed to pair so well with his curveball, seemed to contribute to the increase in strikeouts we've seen from Soriano recently. He threw it 12% of the time, that slider. So I mostly attribute his struggles in this one to the diminished velocity. And that's concerning if it continues. That's the most concerning thing that can happen to a pitcher. But I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater here. I think he's not must roster, but I wouldn't mind rostering him still. There's still a lot to like. Still throws very hard normally. Still has the best ground ball rate in baseball last I checked. And was showing signs of growth prior to this start. So, yeah, I think there's still things to like here.
Sandy Alcantara had a rough one at the D-backs. 6 innings, 10 hits, 7 earned runs, 14 hard hits allowed in this one. He's another pitcher that was pitching better before this start. Previous 4, 2.74 ERA, a 1 whip on the nose. He allowed just 5 walks in his previous 5 starts, which was progress. He's still not getting a lot of whiffs, but Chris, what are your thoughts here on Sandy Alcantara? Rough one. Still 84% rostered, 42% started. I don't think we should be starting Sandy right now, but what do you think about holding him?
I think he's a fringe starter. I'm not dropping him. I liked the way Roto World put it in their blurb at NBC Sports. Is Roto World? It's back to Roto World. It's been Roto World for a couple years now. They said this was a classic bad Sandy Alcantara start, where he still managed to get through 6 innings despite getting bombed. And that is in its way almost promising because, yeah, this used to happen to Sandy Alcantara. This is what is so tough when we're talking about Spencer Strider and Sandy Alcantara and other guys like that is now that we've seen a little bit of success, was the success establishing a new baseline? And is this just a hiccup? Spencer Strider also had a pretty iffy start this weekend, and that's 2 in a row now for him. Is this just a hiccup, or were the good starts the outliers? I'm inclined with both Strider and Sandy to believe that the bad starts are more the outlier now. Not that they're back to being who they were prior to their injuries, because I don't think they are. But I think they're both, in their own ways, at their own levels, back to being useful fantasy options. And that means there will be starts where they look like their old selves, but that's not the baseline. There will also be bad starts, and that's not the baseline either. I think Sandy is in that, Giolito and whoever else we were talking about in that stretch of guys who are like probably 380-ish ERA pitchers. So that's not a must roster and certainly not a must start pitcher, but I'm not dropping Sandy Alcantara if I have him.
Chris, do you still think the Marlins trade Sandy this season because they still have him under team control for a while? I mean,
Yeah.
Doesn't it make more sense to just continue to try to rehab this value because it feels like they'd be selling low?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think major league teams are sitting here looking at Sandy Alcantara's ERA and saying, well, if it's under 4 at the deadline, we'll give up a top 50 prospect. If it's over 4, we won't. Like they're not just looking at that. They're not just looking at what's going to happen the rest of 2025. A big part of Sandy Alcantara's value is the fact that he's under contract for 2 more years after this one. So
he has a club option in 27.
Yeah, so I'm not thinking that really matters too much, but yeah, I think you hold off for the best deal you can get, and if you don't get enough to make it worth it, you don't deal him.
I don't think there are going to be that many sellers at the deadline is the thing. So the Marlins may be able to use that to their advantage and decide that this is the best return they're going to get for Alcantara, even if he's pitching better next year.
Sure, it's possible.
All right, next up, Chris Bassett got bombed by the Red Sox on Saturday. 2 innings, 9 runs, 8 of those were earned. He had more walks than strikeouts in the start, and in his first 4 outings this season, it was a .77 ERA, a 107 WHIP. In his next 13, 5.45 ERA and a 145 WHIP for Chris Bassett, who is still 95% rostered. He's facing the Yankees this week. I think if you can get away from that, you'd probably want to, but I don't know. Is Chris Bassett still a must roster player? For most of the season, he's been kind of meh.
I mean, he had been good recently, except for this start. Is my recollection as somebody who has Bassett in a few leagues. So it was a blow-up start. It was an ugly start. But yeah, 3 of his previous 4 were quality starts. 2 of them just 1 earned run allowed. Yeah, I think he's still worth keeping around.
All right. Starters hit these pitchers. Dylan Cease, still getting lots of questions about it. I understand people are frustrated. Might have drafted Cease as their ace this season. At the Reds, 4 innings, 4 runs, 3 of those were earned. Still had 8 strikeouts. I get that it's frustrating, man. We sound like a broken record with some of these players. I just look under the hood. I don't really see anything that's broken for Dylan Cease. I don't think it's all bad luck either. Like, okay, he has bad command, so he misses his spots, and maybe sometimes he gets hit hard as a result of it. If you don't want to start him at the Phillies this week, I mean, I guess that's up to you, but you could also miss out on a 7-inning, 10 strikeout performance. So that's just kind of Dylan Cease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always the risk when you're talking about guys who aren't playing to what you project their talent level to be. And this goes for guys on the low, Brandon Walter, let's use him as an example. And it goes for Dylan Cease, where you can keep starting Brandon Walter, but each start, unless you think he's good, but I think it's going to end at some point. Unless you think he's good, at some point there's going to be a start that undoes it all. Remember the Ryan Yarbrough start, where he gave up 8 runs in 3 innings or whatever it was, and he went from a 2.20 ERA over a span of 5 starts to a 4.50 ERA over a span of 6 starts. And on the opposite end, you have Dylan Cease, where he's just not good right now. He doesn't have the feel for it. Blah, 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 blah. And then you sit him and you might miss one of those mid-May starts that he had where he had 10 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings. I'm not saying you can't sit him, but that's the risk you run. And with C specifically, it's mostly just been alternating good and bad starts lately. It was 3 earned runs in 5 innings, then 7 shutout with 11 strikeouts against the Dodgers on June 10th, then 6 in 5 innings against the Dodgers as well. Then the Royals, 1 earned run in 6 2/3, and then the Reds, that should have been a good matchup, and he struggled. So I don't think you want to get caught up playing is Dylan Cease going to be good in his next start? Because I don't think the opponent matters. I don't think the weather matters. Is this one of those days for Dylan Cease? And you have no way of knowing that before it happens. So I think you just start him. I think you just don't worry about it, and you hope the rest of the way it's more like a 3.20 ERA than the 4.50 it's been.
Mm-hmm. Nathan Eovaldi made his return on Friday against the Mariners. 3 innings, 3 runs, 2 strikeouts, only 45 pitches. He did not have a rehab assignment, which explains the short outing here. Only 41% started. He's home against the Orioles this week. I can't imagine he'd throw more than 60, 65 pitches. So I would prefer to bench him for at least this next start.
Agreed.
All right. Hitters who remained hot this weekend. Brandon Lau has homered in 3 of his last 4. And in June, he's hitting .337 with 7 home runs, a .979 OPS. He has an OPS over 900 each of the past 2 months. That's Brandon Lau. Jazz Chisholm coming alive. 3 home runs in his past 4 games. 23 games since returning. .318 batting average, 6 home runs, 4 steals, .979 OPS. Byron Buxton, maybe he's just a stud again. Maybe he's just healthy. That's all it took. But 2 pairs of socks and shoes this weekend. He's up to 19 homers, 15 steals, .913 OPS. And Trey Turner had himself a huge game on Friday, 4 for 6 with 2 home runs and a steal, putting the finishing touches on a strong June as well. Anything to add on some hot hitters here?
I just want to say, anytime Byron Buxton comes up in any context, like fantasy, real baseball, you tweet it, you make a video about it, whatever, there's always someone who's like, hey, but he can't stay healthy. And I just think that energy sucks. And if you can't appreciate what Byron Buxton does when he's on the baseball field without doing that, you don't really like baseball, and you should just go away. He is one of the most talented players of his generation. I think there's no question about that. I genuinely think injuries have robbed us of a Hall of Fame career, and I'm going to enjoy and get joy out of every time Byron Buxton is healthy, because there are not more than 20 better players in the last decade than Byron Buxton when he's right. That's my little rant. That's all.
My only point on Byron Buxton, based on what you just said, like, he has such a reputation, is regarded so widely as perpetual damaged goods. I don't know that a sell high scenario exists here. I mean, I do worry he could get injured any day, but can you
Everybody
cash
else
in
worries
on
about
this?
that.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just kind of enjoy it for as long as it lasts.
I agree.
All right, and one hitter who is waking up lately, Brian Reynolds, last 7 games, .419 batting average, 2 homers, 8 runs, 6 RBI. Lots of questions this season on Brian Reynolds, which I get. He has been a disappointment, but looks like maybe starting to finally put things together here for Brian Reynolds. Some other hitting leftovers, some signs of life for Corey Seager, who's homered in 3 straight. Kyle Tucker's first series back in Houston, he went 4 for 5 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday. O'Neal Cruz, back to life on Sunday, 2 for 4 with a double dong, 4 RBI, but overall having a pretty rough June. Nice weekend for Cody Bellinger, who had a steal on Friday and then hit his 11th home run on Sunday. Aaron Judge, 2 more home runs on Sunday as well. He now has 30 home runs here on June 30th. And James Wood had 4 intentional walks on Sunday. First player to do that in a game since Barry Bonds.
Wow. Good for him.
That's weird.
I want to point out that Cody Bellinger in his last 43 games, because you look at the full season slash line, it's not that great, but last 43 games, he's batting .316 with 7 homers. His average exit velocity is about 1.5 miles. is about 1.5 miles per hour higher than the last 2 years. And so I think he's pretty much just must start across the board. I know there have been times where we've doubted that even this year, but he's really on a nice run here.
Yeah, and remember his timeline, he had the huge spring and then a slow start. He was dealing with some back stuff in April, so I think that, kind of derailed his start of the season. But yeah, last 43 games, that kind of tracks to the middle or end of May. And
now there is the complication of the Yankees still having too many cooks in the kitchen, and so he does sit a little more often than you'd like. But even so, I think he's pretty close to must start.
Some pitching leftovers. Part 1, Framber Valdez continues to pitch well, this time against the Cubs. 6 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts. Last 10 starts, 1.72 ERA, 104 whip for Valdez. Ranger Suarez outdueled Spencer Strider on Sunday. 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Noticed that his velocity was down quite a bit in this start. His sinker, curve, and fastball all down between 2 and 3 miles per hour. So he succeeded in spite of it, but something to watch. Spencer Strider, on the other side, actually pitched pretty well. 7 innings, 2 runs, only 4 strikeouts, but overall solid outing here. Anything on Strider, Suarez, and Valdez?
Yeah, so, Chris described Strider's start a minute ago as not very good. And in some ways,
disappointing.
So you 2 earned runs in 7 innings. You like that. 4 strikeouts, not so much. 10 whiffs on 95 pitches. That's not Strider-like either. I believe only 1 whiff came on the fastball, when in his previous start, he had his most whiffs on the fastball since 2023, the year he led the majors in strikeouts by a huge margin. So it feels like a 1 step forward, 2 steps back situation for Strider, whose velocity.
I think it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. I got the steps wrong. But his velocity hasn't been as high as it was in that rocky start with the 13 strikeouts. It hasn't gotten there since. It has been up in general since then. So it hasn't dropped to pre-Rocky start levels, but it hasn't quite reached Rocky start levels either, which means it's still lagging from, prior to last year's elbow injury. So I don't know. He seems like he's trending up overall. I think he's basically back to being must start. Yeah, Strider. But
for me, it's the difference between very good and best pitcher in the world.
Yeah, maybe.
And he's not that.
I'm a little uneasy about him still, but I don't see myself sitting him in any league.
I think he's more like Dylan Cease at this point. Like, not the same. I think the control will probably be better than Dylan Cease, but that same kind of range where it's a little frustrating, but overall good.
Yeah, more like a mid-3s ERA, 115-ish whip. Lots of strikeouts, obviously. A couple other pitching leftovers. Brian Wu, another strong start against the Rangers. 6 innings, 2 unearned runs with 9 strikeouts. He has now gone 6+ innings in all 16 starts this season. Jose Barrios has been much better of late. He dominated the Red Sox, 7 shutout with 8 strikeouts. And Zach Littell was great at the Orioles, 7 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts for him. He allowed 7 earned runs on April 10th, 14 starts since. It's a 2.98 ERA and a 104 whip. It's just none of the underlying numbers line up with Zach Littell. I think if you can sell high on him, do it. Maybe that's obvious. I don't know how much you can get for Zach Littell, but I would try.
I just don't think anybody's giving you anything for Zach Littell, unfortunately.
Most likely.
And then Barrios, he has now, this is 3 years in a row where his ERA is at least like 0.85 lower than his xERA. That's wild. That's really weird to do. Seth Lugo's doing something similar, and we didn't have time to get into him, I guess, but I have no idea. Barrios is a situation where I don't think there's any value in selling high. I think he's a high 3s ERA pitcher, like 3.6, 3.8, whatever it ends up being. I think right now it's 3.30, but nobody's gonna beat your door down for Jose Barrios. So I think you just hang on to him, and he'll be mostly good and then occasionally give up 7 runs, and it'll be frustrating, and you just live with it. Seth Lugo.
You can talk about Seth Lugo.
I'm just going to keep looking dumb because I'm going to say Seth Lugo is the biggest sell high candidate in baseball. I'm pretty sure I said the same thing like exactly a year ago, and he continued to make me look stupid. But last year he outperformed his xERA by 3/4 of a run. And okay, maybe there's something there. This year, his strikeout rate is, I think, identical. The quality of contact he's allowing is significantly worse. And his walk rate is significantly higher. And his ERA is 1/4 run lower. I don't know. Baseball's stupid. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't get it.
I should just clip that out and make it part of my the next FBT promo, right? Baseball's stupid. We have no idea what's going to happen, but we're here anyway. Call it to the bullpen for the Yankees on Friday. Luke Weaver got the 8th inning with a 3-run lead, struck out 1 for his 7th hold. Devin Williams got the 9th inning, struck out 1 for his 11th save. Weaver has yet to get a save opportunity since returning, despite Aaron Boone said that they would split saves. So I don't know, kind of just still feels like Devin Williams for now. For the Giants on Friday, Camilo Doval struck out 2 for his 13th save, despite a kind of rough June for him. For the White Sox on Saturday, Grant Taylor pitched 2 perfect innings with 2 strikeouts for his 2nd save. He's been quite good. He's an interesting prospect for them. He's 14% rostered. Then on Sunday, it was Mike Vassell who got the final 5 outs for his 2nd save, just assuming Grant Taylor was unavailable, but he might be taking over as the highest leverage reliever for the White Sox. Bad team, but interesting pitcher. For the Phillies on Sunday, Orion Kerkering got the 8th inning with a 1-run lead. He allowed a hit, struck out 3 for his 12th hold. Matt Strahm got the 9th inning. He allowed 2 base runners, picked up his 5th save. Are we any closer to figuring out the Phillies, or is it?
That seems like a true timeshare.
Yeah. I think on Sunday, Kerkering got the 8th and Strahm got the save.
Yep.
But I think
That's
Strahm and Kerkering have flip-flopped each of the last 5 save opportunities or 5 saves for the Phillies. So
Yeah.
Sounds
right.
I think Strahm's a better pitcher, even though his ERA is higher this season. So if you have to prioritize one of them, I'd go with him.
All right, for the Padres on Sunday, Robert Suarez got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He gave up 2 runs on a walk and 4 hits, took his 3rd blown save and 4th loss. It has been an awful June for Suarez, 7.84 ERA, 174 whip. Meanwhile, Jason Adam has a 169 ERA on the season, over a K per inning. He's been reliable for years across Tampa Bay and San Diego. I actually put some bids in some of my deeper roto leagues here on Sunday to pick up Jason Adam. I don't know that they're making a change or anything, but it could happen.
Well, that's in those leagues where saves are scarce, those deeper roto leagues where anybody who assumes the closer role is going to go for $1 million fab dollars. Like, this is how you beat the rush.
Mm-hmm.
You avoid spending all those fab dollars. And I did the same thing. I picked up Jason Adam in Tout Wars, which is a 15-team roto league.
Same, Scott. Woo!
Yeah. Robert Suarez's ERA for the year now is approaching 4.
Yeah. And then for the Marlins on Sunday, Calvin Fauché got the 8th inning with a 4-run lead, facing 9-1-2 in the D-backs lineup. He gave up 2 runs. Ronnie Enriquez got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He picked up his 3rd save, and Enriquez now has 2 of the last 3 saves for the Marlins. For the rest of the season, if I try to proclaim that there is a Marlins closer, please, can you guys just virtually slap me and tell me I'm dumb, because
You're dumb.
I don't think that there is a closer for the Marlins, and there probably won't be. It's whatever. They mix and match, and they're not a good team, but I don't know.
Hey, hottest team in baseball. Franchise record 9 straight road wins. First ever series or road trip where they swept with more than 6 games. Let's go, Marlins.
Hey, they're hitting the ball, man. My guy, Otto Lopez, he's doing work. To stream or not to stream on Monday. Some options: Eric Fetty at the Pirates. Max Scherzer gets the Yankees. Jacob Lopez at Tampa Bay. Trevor Rogers at the Rangers. Ryan Nelson against the Giants.
So I like Ryan Nelson for this week, more because of what his second matchup looks like against the Royals than this first one against the Giants. He's been surprisingly good, though, for a long time now, dating back to last season in a starting role specifically. Like he throws. I don't know what makes his fastball so difficult for hitters, but when he throws it like 65% of the time, they just can't do anything with it. It seems like. So I don't mind starting him as the Giants. I prefer to chase the strikeout upside of Jacob Lopez at the Rays. I think, even though that's a difficult place to pitch, tough lineup. Just kind of hoping that gimmick continues for now. I think it's a pretty good gimmick. Maybe it won't even be a gimmick in the long run.
Revenge game as well.
Oh, yeah. True. Yeah.
I think it also helps that a bunch of their best hitters are lefties. So that
Aranda and Lowe, both
Lau.
Lowe and Lau.
So that does make me a little less, because as a general rule, extreme fly ball pitcher in Tampa would be a stay away, but the matchup should be okay, and I'm hoping he gets through it.
By the way, did you guys see that 467-foot home run for Aranda this weekend?
I did, yeah.
That's your guy.
He's killing it.
It was a good one.
Did we give another streamer besides Lopez? Ryan Nelson, kind of?
Nope. Those are my favorite two.
Yeah, I'm excited Matt Waldron's back. Baseball's more fun when there's a knuckleballer.
1,000%.
And he was pretty useful for like the first 3 months last year before he lost the feel for it. So I would be very excited if we got a fantasy relevant Matt Waldron run again.
And then on Tuesday, we have Andre Palance at the Pirates, Edward Cabrera against the Twins, Jeffrey Springs at Tampa Bay, revenge game, another one. Charlie Morton at the Rangers, Hayden Birdsong at the D-backs, Shane Smith at the Dodgers. Meh.
Boo to Birdsong and Smith. I'm not doing that this time. Done it too many times, and those are bad matchups. I like Palante. I like Palante at the Pirates, as I mentioned earlier.
I think I like Cabrera a little bit more, but sure. They're both in the same range.
I don't mind Morton at Texas.
All right.
I'm a little scared of Springs at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I agree. We are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.